OK, bon après-midi à tous et bienvenue à la rencontre du comité de délégation pour la ville d'Ottawa. Welcome everyone to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa, and I'd like to thank you for taking on the roads to get here. It's not very pretty out there, so thanks for coming in person. It's appreciated. Okay, so as you know, we're a quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to conduct or consider, Planning Act applications, including minor variances, permissions, and consents to sever. So I think you know that. You also know that our hearings are back online. And if you do want to participate online rather than be in person, if you wanted to choose not to take on the roads today, all you need to do is really talk to our committee staff to make that happen. So you are being live streamed on YouTube, and the video is going to be archived along with the agenda for today on the committee's website. So my name is Anne Tremblay, and I'll be your chair today. With me are my fellow panel members. I'm going to start on my right, Member Blatherwick, Member Lecaillie, Member Haskin, and Member Keklikan. So, all right, in terms of the procedures, we have an agenda. We never stick to the order of the agenda. And like normal, we are going to move that around a little bit. Today, we're going to hear the adjournments and then the unopposed, and then we'll move on with the items that we actually have to hear. Let's see, and then what else? Do know though, for those unopposed, so don't think we haven't looked at the files. We look at all of it. We understand exactly what the file's about. And the reason they're unopposed is because they are straightforward. There's been no concerns by anybody. There's nobody with an interest in the application. So there's a number of criteria that has to be met before it hits the unopposed. Sometimes it's on the unopposed, and when we meet, and there's a case like that today, we decide to take it off because it needs, in our opinion, a further review. So a more questioned review. So in terms of the statutory public notification requirements, we have them all in, so that's not an issue for today. Also, the way we proceed is we'll invite the applicant down. This is the unopposed. I don't need to see anybody. We can deal with those very quickly. But for applications that we're going to hear, we're going to ask you to come down. We have your name and your address, but I'll probably ask you to just reconfirm that for the record. Then we either will ask you for a presentation, we're going to ask, or just go straight to questions. So that happens on occasion when an application's already been before us. It was adjourned. Maybe we had a presentation and we don't need to hear it again. So, and we do have a case like that today. After that, the committee can ask questions to the applicant agent and also some clarifying questions for planning staff who are online today. So I take it we have Ms. Horn and Mr. Gildart online. And then after that, we go to the public portion, which is to hear any further comments from anybody who has an interest in the application, whether you're for or against, it doesn't matter. And whether you're here or you're online, anybody has the opportunity to address the committee on an application. Once that's all done, we give the applicant a chance to recap, rebut, whatever they'd like to do with that time. And then we move to a decision. So we can either on the floor grant an application, we can on the floor deny an application. Sometimes we reserve if there's been new information, sufficient new information brought to us through oral testimony that requires that we talk a little bit more about that. So we close this hearing, reopen a reserved hearing, and further deliberate on the application and make a decision. In all cases, a decision is made today, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send you an official written decision and the reasons for that to all parties, participants, and anyone who has required a copy of that decision. So in terms of our business matters, does anybody have a conflict of interest with any items on our agenda or any of the other two panels? Yes, Mr. Keklikan, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm recusing myself from item number 2, which is 39 Goulburn, and item number 6, 525 Chapel, because they're located in my immediate neighborhood, and I want to avoid any public perception of conflict or bias.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 6, I have a conflict of interest. That's 525 Chapel. I deal with the planner or the agent on the application on another file, so I will not be able to sit on that one.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? That's it? Okay. We don't have any minutes to confirm today, but we do have one adjournment request, and that's for application number 312 Lisgar. So do we have, yeah, come on down. Excuse me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just need your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Saeed Sayah, S-A-Y-A-H, with Foten on behalf of the applicant.
So, Mr. Syed, can you please give us the reasons for the adjournment?
The site is a very small, complex downtown site. We had started the site plan control process. And currently we are in discussions with the neighbor regarding the overhang over the right of way. We hope to have that resolved, but we would like to adjourn the application until February 4th, pending the outcome of those discussions.
So can you tell me what, I guess is a sufficient time. So if it's a complex legal matter, maybe we need to adjourn sine die and bring it back? Just give me an idea of what's really involved.
Yeah, it's not that complex. It could be, but we're trying to get an answer very quickly, and we may simply amend the drawing slightly to remove that overhang over the right of way if we cannot come to an agreement before the end of this calendar year.
All right, and so you're fairly confident that February 4th will work?
Yes, I am.
All right, okay. With that then, committee members, all those in favor of adjourning to February 4th? Sorry, and before we do that, I should have made the call out. Is there anybody in the audience, either here or online, who wants to speak to the adjournment? Okay, not seeing anybody, so you have our decision, we voted, so we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you about 2 months, actually. Okay, so that's done. Then we're going to go to the unopposed. And like I said, I don't need to see anybody on this, but for application number 1, 300 Parnell, and application number 5 for 293 Homewood, I'm just going to make a call out to anybody who may have an interest in either one of those applications. Now's your chance. All right. Committee members, all those in favor of both applications? All right. So for the record, the decision is unanimous, the approval of both application number 1 for 300 Parnell and for number 5, 293 Homewood. All right. That takes us to the items we are going to hear. And what I'd like to do is start with number 4 for 470 Bronson. So I'm looking for Agent Perrault. Sorry, I'm going to ask you to sit on this side, and I'm going to ask you to repeat that, if you can, with your name and your municipal address and all that, please.
Hi, Blair Gagnon is going to be doing the presentation. He's the client and applicant on the file. I'm the transportation planner. My name is Christy Ellis. And you need my address? 597 Duff Crescent in Gloucester.
And you work from home, or you work for a firm?
I have an office address as well.
Yeah, give us your office address.
135 Laurier Avenue West.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, I am going to open this up to questions for panel members. So any questions? I know there are questions. Member?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think myself and Member Keckler can have some questions. I think he's going to ask some questions of staff first.
That's perfect. So we're looking for, who are we looking for? Ms. Horn. Member Keckler, are you prepared to proceed?
Do you want me to proceed with the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the agent, if I may ask, regarding the report, the proposal. If I understand correctly, the takeout restaurant is focusing on vehicular traffic, the traffic impact analysis that was mentioned. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe this was heard earlier this summer and additional traffic information was requested. So that's the purpose of our report.
So these were summer conditions. And what was taken into account? Is it what kind of analysis was done? Is it streamline? Is it the intersection? Is it the immediate access points to the site?
Yeah, so we did some survey work in September, so we waited till fall, because that's typically a better time to do our survey work. And this is a pretty unique use. There's not a lot of gas stations where you just have a walk-up restaurant. So we were actually able to, with the help of our client, locate another one that was just built, with a very similar context. So that one's located in Markham, Ontario. Like urban condition, close to a highway. So we thought that was a good site. So we went out and surveyed that one. And we also surveyed the Bronson site for vehicle traffic at both driveways. And so we did that and we looked at, the first thing that we looked at was, are these comparable sites? Like, is this a reasonable proxy site? When we did that using the driveway volumes. And so that was the first thing in our report that we confirmed, is that they were actually quite consistent, very similar on both a weekday and a weekend. And so then we proceeded to look at the data that we collected at the proxy site. 'Cause the question, I think, from the committee when it was heard in the summer was just about net new traffic generated by this walk-up restaurant. And so what we looked at is we set up cameras and we were able to look at who was accessing the restaurant solely for the purposes of getting food rather than visiting the gas station, so that we could establish how many net new trips we would expect on the road network. And so we did that and we summarized both for a weekday and a weekend. We did an 11-hour study on both days. And in our report, we found that there were 8, I can tell you what page it's on in here. So it's on page 7 of our report. So during the weekday, we looked at midday, so lunchtime, and then PM, which is typically when you would look at traffic being the peak condition. And so during the afternoon peak PM period, we saw 4 vehicles in that 1-hour period that were just net new for the restaurant itself. We found a little bit higher results on a weekend. We saw up to 11 in the peak hour. And then we saw, like, in total about 30 to 50 either on the weekend or weekday. And that's over that 11-hour period. And so our findings were that it was quite negligible in terms of the net new traffic that's going to be generated by this small walk-in restaurant, and that it was a reasonable addition to the site.
Thank you. If I may follow up. So it was by trip purpose, right? It's either fuel or food or a combination of
Correct.
both. And your report indicates that the restaurant will offer a pedestrian-oriented use. Did you take into account any pedestrian traffic that's additional or supplementary to the existing conditions?
No, I think the focus of our study was really vehicular traffic, because that's what we understood to be the issue, was undue impact onto the area street network as a result. I can tell you that the volumes were still quite low.
Okay. So what I wanted to ask then, just my last question, if it's manageable, according to the report, what are some of the measures or actions taken to manage the additional, and are you projecting into the future of the kind of traffic that's generated or attracted to the site, say in another 5 to 10 years?
In terms of management, we've assured that there's enough parking on site to accommodate the quick in and out of vehicular traffic where somebody may want to go pick up a hamburger. For the most part, for this kind of use, it's a lot of pass by. So that's just vehicles that are on the road that are passing by. You get gas, I'm hungry, I'm going to grab a burger at the same time. In terms of long-term forecasting, no. But I mean, the threshold for requiring a traffic study for the city of Ottawa is significantly more than the number, like we saw 10 or less trips in a peak hour, and the city of Ottawa would require significantly more for this to be like an issue that they would want to look into. So
Right. So parking and maybe queuing of vehicles.
there would be no
Pickup.
queuing because you'd
No?
park in the space. There's
see.
no, it's on a drive-through. And so you would just get out of your car, go to
I
get
see.
your burger. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Blatherwick.
Okay, it's Miss Ellis?
yes,
Okay. So in discussions with the city regarding a transportation impact analysis, which is what we mentioned, referenced twice in our decision. You've indicated, well, you've created a trip generation and forecasting report. That's fine. You've done a parking analysis on site. But for a TIA study, there's also an existing conditions analysis that's required, site access and circulation analysis, and any or all mitigation measures necessary, and a traffic analysis. So the city, as far as we understand, the city did not require this because the trip generation characteristics of this development in future are not sufficient, or not a triggering mechanism for the city.
correct.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the level of service is at those approaches, the northbound and southbound approach on Bronson and the eastbound and westbound approach on Somerset?
No, we didn't do a traffic study because it wasn't, or it hasn't been required. We really just focused on the question of what are the net new traffic impacts? If the number had been a significant number, then that may have, warranted further discussion about looking at Gladstone and Bronson. But given that we're talking about on a weekday in the PM 4 trips, which is one trip every 15 minutes, it is considered to be pretty negligible on the road network. And so based on what, city staff had said at the last hearing, and then further confirmation when we submitted this report, there wasn't assessed to be a need to look at the road network.
And I'm assuming that you discussed the need for further study with transportation staff of the city.
Yeah, my understanding is this has been circulated to the city, and then we got no comments back from them. And my client's the city staff may be able to respond, but my client, Blair Gagnon, also may be able to confirm.
Well, I can ask Ms. Horn. Thanks very much. Ms. Horn, when the discussions between the applicant and the city took place, I'm assuming that planners were involved in this, and transportation planners or traffic engineers?
Thank you, Mr. Blatherwick. Given that it's not a requirement for the traffic, the road network in general to be studied, because it does not meet the 75 trips per hour threshold to even ask for a traffic study. Staff did review, planning staff did review. However, we determined that it wasn't necessary to circulate to our transportation planning team, who have
no one from the traffic division took a look at this at all. There was no discussion between the planning department and the people in traffic management.
I'll let my colleague, Ms. O'Connell, respond.
Okay, so Ms. O'Connell, before you move forward to answer, I'm just going to follow up with Member Blatherwick's comments, because that's what struck me, was that in the planning report, we didn't have anything to say that either planning staff or infrastructure staff or transportation staff had looked at it and felt it was sufficient and didn't warrant any further study. So there wasn't any comment on that. So it's a good thing that Member Blatherwick asked the question, because we need to get that on record, right? So from you then, if you can just explain to us what the process is a little bit in this case, so that we have some comfort that the city is comfortable with the overall report.
Staff did not make the request in the first place for the study because it didn't meet our warrants. And so we didn't particularly flag this for our transportation planners to read over the study and spend city resources reviewing a study that we didn't require in the first place. But I will say transportation planners are circulated all applications for the Committee of Adjustment. And so if there are any concerns with materials that are submitted, they raise it to our attention and we put that in our comments to the Committee of Adjustment. So I want to reiterate there are no concerns from a city's perspective, either from a planning or a transportation perspective with this proposed use.
Okay, thank you, Ms. O'Connell. I just want to make the comment, though, that, even though it may not have been warranted, they did do it. So once you have that report in hand, now we have to deal with it, right? So we have to say, is the report actually technically sound? Is it, even if it wasn't needed? Once you have it, to me, it triggers the obligation to still go through those motions. So, but I understand, though, that you've had a chance to look at it. You seem to be comfortable with it, not to put words in your mouth. And as long as that's on the record, then I think that's what, at least that's what my goal was. Does it answer your questions, Member Blatherwick?
Yep, it does, Madam Chair. Thanks.
All right, okay. Any other questions from anybody? All right, so that means we're going to go to the public portion on this application, and let's see. I don't have anybody on my speakers list. Is there anyone in the audience or anyone online who would like to speak to this application for 470 Bronson, addition of an A&W to an existing service station? All right. There being none, then, committee staff, I feel comfortable taking a vote at this time. So all those in favor? Okay. So for the record, 4 of the members are in favor. Member Blatherwick, you have a dissent
Yep.
on the application?
Yep.
All right. But that means, though, that you still have an approval and a granting of your application. So thank you. And then thank you for taking the time to do an extra study. It does help us to see that our concerns were taken into consideration. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Okay, with that then takes us to application number 2. So looking for Agent Edwards. Come on down.
Sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair, but Member Keklikan will need to leave the room.
Yes, thank you for that. I think Member Keklikan was on his way out though. So. Okay, so good afternoon. If you could just both state your names and your work addresses, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair and the panel. My name is Dexter Edwards. Address is 460 Hunt Club West, Ottawa.
Hi, my name is Philip Derrick and my address is 968 Cobble Hill Drive.
Sorry, can I have your name again?
Philip Derrick?
Thank you. So Mr. Edwards, I take it you're going to take the lead on a presentation?
Yes, on behalf of the applicant, on behalf of the agent, yes.
And you've submitted a PowerPoint because we are going to want to hear your presentation.
There wasn't a PowerPoint that was submitted for today, no. But I will present the file.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Just for future reference, so it does help the committee to have a PowerPoint presentation. So if you have a chance the next time, think about it, bring it forward.
Well, there was one that was in the original submission. I thought that would be circulated.
Oh, well, okay, if there's one on file, then
Yes.
can we bring that one up? Is there much, in your opinion, that may have changed from that original presentation?
No, it's quite similar to the original submission.
Okay, we'll just give them a minute to let the technology catch up. All right, is that it, Mr. Edwards, what you're seeing on screen?
No, that would be the presentation. Those are the plans that were provided, but there's also a presentation deck that was in the original. But either way, we can work with the plans. The information you're looking at, not sure what page, is that the first page? we would go back a few. Go back. Should be one prior to this. Okay, well, that's not the slide deck, but the information that is in the presentation identifies the site in terms of its context. This address at 39 Goulburn is a property that is currently zoned under the R4 UA 480 as a permitted use single family, but it has a current use of a bed and breakfast. The current usage is currently in effect, and the intent based on that is that we're looking at the renovation of this building to maintain the existing volume, all of which would be accommodating an increase in the units to 8 units, except for a small addition on the second story of the back of the building, which would accommodate 1-story addition, approximately 50 square meters. So the existing neighborhood currently has a number of bed and breakfasts that are in that area. All were similar in terms of usage based on the permitted use. There are a number of distinct locations where the unit count is more than what is a single family dwelling. And so the allowance underneath the permitted use for this zoning under the R4 is a consistent use that we're following through with. So in this case, the 8 units that we're looking to increase have a combination of unit sizes. The sizes include 2 4-bedroom units, 2 3-bedrooms, 3 bachelor units, one 3-bedroom, 3 bachelor units, a 2-bedroom. So at the present time, the bed and breakfast has a frontage where there's access to the units from the front. There's also 2 access points from the side, which would be the north property side. And in our case, we will now be looking at 3 entrances from the front at the frontage. And from the same side, an increase in access for the 5 additional units. In the siding, we have a request that we're looking at the side yard provisions. The existing side yard to the north is currently the garage side. It has a 0.93 meter distance to the side. The requirement underneath the zoning for this low-rise apartment is a 1.5 meters. So we're looking for relief on that side yard. We also have a request for relief in terms of the rear yard setback. The rear yard setback, based on the percentage of lot depth required to be 30%, would have been 10.16 meters. We're asking for relief because it's currently a 7.12 meters. And with that reduced setback in the rear yard, that means that the percentage of the lot area or the lot depth is 23.3% as opposed to 30%. In addition, in the rear yard, we have a need to accommodate 25% of the lot area in the rear yard, and we currently have 23.3% in the rear yard area. So those are variances that we would require a request for relief on. The other one that may come up into the discussion is the fact that there's a garage. And in that zoning, the garage typically has to be set back 0.6 meters from the front of the primary residence. And in our application, we're intending to change the use of that garage to occupied space. So therefore, rendering the entire property use of residential use with no garage. So given that adjustment, there's no requirement to have that setback of 0.6 meters. So it's not a relief that's requested. As we looked at the overall, we wanted to make sure that we're looking at the under section 45, the ability to check the 4 tests with regards to whether the variances would be minor or not. We're not increasing the building in terms of its size above the 8 meter that it currently sits. We are actually filling in a space at the rear that is a single story, but the rest of the dwelling is 2 stories. So we're adding that portion, and the entire end result will be a 2-story renovated structure. We're also looking to maintain that 8 meters, despite the fact that under R4, we're allowed to go up to 11 meters, but we don't need to exceed to do that. The intent of my client is to try to increase and add additional affordable housing units to the stock that's inside this urban zone 3. That's part of the intent. The desirability of, oh, you've got the slides. So what you're looking at now is the rear yard. And the rear yard has that single story structure that you see in the large picture to the right. We're intending to add 1 story to the top of that, and also to ensure that we're not increasing the glazing percentage back there or visibility to the neighbor. That distance from that back wall to the fence is where that 7.13 meters is. So we're not encroaching by any means with regards to loss of light or any kind of impact from shadow to the neighbor's property adjacent to the rear. In the rear, that 25% requirement for landscaped area, we will be landscaping that area to meet the requirement. At the present time, there is a storage shed in the far corner at the back that we will also repurpose and use that as a storage for garbage, recycling, that type of thing for the residents to be able to use. So that'll be 1 slide. Just like you flip to the next one. You have. Okay, so this was just looking at the critical root zone for the trees that are on the property. There are a number of trees that are there in the neighbor's yard to the south. There's root zones that are there that we're not affecting in any way. At the front of the property, which would be on the west, there's a large tree that's been protected as per the notes from forestry. That tree is going to remain as is. The other vegetation that's there is all around the perimeter on the lot lines. So we're not removing any trees. We are indeed planting a new tree in the rear yard where we have the amenity space, as well as one in the front, as mentioned from planning staff's review, that once the vehicle is not part of this process anymore with a garage, there's no need for a driveway, so we will be filing to remove the curb depression and then placing a new tree in the center of that driveway area. So we're essentially going to landscape the entire lot to accommodate the needs as we met with planning staff.
So I'm going to ask staff if they could zoom in on the portion, not the landscape one, the other one, so that we can more clearly see some of the variances.
There should be one that's just the site.
Is it the next slide, do you think?
It might be. That'll be, go back up one previous to that and see what we see. Keep going. Okay. So, no, that would be the one, I guess. We'll work with that one. So if you can zoom into the one to the left, you'll be able to see where the variances are. So as we look at this now, the north of the property is to the left. So that side yard where the garage is the one that is currently 0.93 meters.
So that's an existing condition then, is that correct?
That's correct. So we're not adding to the footprint of this building at all. So there are no additions to increase the square footage or to impact any of the setbacks that are required front, rear, or side. So on that left side, the garage is in existing condition, we need relief. The other points of relief are in the rear yard. If you could zoom in towards the back of the property a little bit. Okay, so in the rear left corner, which is the top left, there is a storage shed that's there that's being repurposed with regards to garbage and storage for recycling. And then the rest of that space to the right is all of the existing rear yard. So we will continue to use it that way, create landscaping with softscaping, and then identify what's required with the new tree. So if we go to the next slide down. Okay, those are the leaves. Keep going down. Okay, so from the front, the building's existing as a two-story building with the garage to the left, which is to the north. The garage will remain as is. There is a deck above the garage that's going to remain as is. We have changes internal to the structure, so there are no changes to the exterior fenestration on the front. If we go to the next slide, down. Okay, so in this case, what we've done is to convert that garage into livable space. So we will have a point of entry at that garage with glazing into a space that's renovated for an apartment. The entrance where you saw the portico to the right of that, there was a single door. Now there are two doors that come down that main entrance step. So one will go up and one will go into the main level. The existing windows, again, on the main level will remain as is, and the upper windows remain as is. What's shown in the back and the gray is the additional roof line to match the existing with one story that will accommodate a unit that's at the back on the second level. Next slide. So that's an existing view of the property from the rear. So you currently have windows that are at the second level, as well as the lower level, and then the deck above the garage accessible. So next slide. So our revision to that is this is now a view that shows the addition on top of that second level with a secondary egress from the two new units at the back down to the courtyard, which is on the north side. The existing spaces remain as is. We're adding on above. And we're also maintaining that deck above the garage to the right. Next slide. So now this is a view of the existing looking from the south property line, existing two-story with the back being single-story. No changes to that facade that's significant except for the fact that we'll add up and add window. So if you slide down to the next slide. So in this case now we have the addition at the rear being consistent with what's already there, not being any higher or any different in terms of the context of what we have in the existing building. And then a series of porches that will have access to those rear units coming up from the rear yard. Next slide. So this is a view from the north property line, looking back at the garage in the foreground, which is a single story, and then having those two existing points of entry that I identified before because as a bed and breakfast, it functioned with 3 points of entry, one off the main street and two off the side. Those are the 2 points of entry, one directly behind the garage and one towards the single-story portion at the back. So in this case, we have an existing deck that's at that top of the garage. So next slide. So what we've done now is including that addition to the rear, sitting on top of the single story, provided another point of entry at the upper level, and having that coincide with another point of entry that is actually a secondary point of entry for the apartment on the front at the second level. So those two stairs come down, converge to a center point at the courtyard, which is on the north. We maintain the entry that we have on the lower level right behind the garage, and then the other entry that we had on the bottom, we've maintained that. And we have a basement entry that will provide directly below that one. So at the end of the adjustments, we've got 3 points of entry from the front, street frontage, and 5 points of entry from the side, all leading towards that courtyard for you to be able to access the street. Next slide.
I think, Mr. Edwards, I think we have a pretty good idea now of what's going on. So if you want to just get to the 4 tests.
Yeah, so the initial test I'd mentioned is that we were looking at working within the building size and existing volume without increasing height. And so we're being consistent with the intensification of the spaces for residential use and also creating affordable stock. So the first item with regards to a development and the use of the land, we're still maintaining that. So we're maintaining that use and the occupancy is not changing. We're not doing any revisions to anything that's not permitted. Within the general intent of the zoning bylaw, we're looking at it as an enhancement to the fact that we maintain the building height. We're also looking at the same type of use and occupancy, and we're working with a number of things under the heritage, because this is a mature overlay. We have heritage on the file as well for their review, and we've kept within the existing character of the building as well as the streetscape relative to what would be considered reviewed under the Heritage Conservation Directorate. And we have some feedback, and we've been working with them on this. The overall intent and purpose of the official plan was to have a low-rise building within a mature neighborhood be still in character with the Sandy Hill area. There's a specific reference to the Sandy Hill area and the characters that we need to maintain based on the review. It ties back to the Heritage Conservation document that's been circulated. The documentation also identifies this as a review that we would have cursory in the district zone that they've identified. This is not one of the buildings that would be considered primary. It's secondary, but we still have to respect and follow the guidelines in general. So we've done that in all of those cases. So we felt that we met the 4 tests based on that and discussions with planning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Edwards. Opening it up now to questions, and Member Dakey, go ahead, please.
I have quite a number, and I will have one for Ms. Horn, so just letting the coordinator know to get her primed and ready. So my first question, I noted in your application that it was as found condition. So does this mean that the property is vacant? Because it said it was just a bed and breakfast. Now it's as found condition. I don't know if that means that it was just like as is condition or what that means, but is it currently vacant?
Yes, it's currently vacant.
It's currently vacant. Okay, because you said occupancy isn't changing. And And so, because I thought, well, is it still operating as a bed and breakfast? Is this being currently used as a rental unit? So you're saying it's currently vacant?
Yeah, I think in terms of the occupancy, is speaking in regards to the residential type occupancy. So it was.
Well,
in-
it's a bed and breakfast, it's residential, but that's not really, it is changing because there's a difference between someone who's coming in as a bed and breakfast, maybe a tourist, versus someone who's coming in living there or on a more permanent basis. So just clarifying that. Again, I'm not a planner, so planning can hop in and correct me there, but my question was about vacancy. So that's been answered. You noted in your application, we're doing our part to increase affordable rental housing stock. So can you tell me a bit more about that? Are you under any federal programs or other city programs that are gonna make these units affordable?
We actually have programs that we're looking at. I'll allow Ryan to give you the specific detail.
Yeah, so in terms of affordability, CMHC takeout financing was the plan for this project. And what we're doing there is we are I'm mixing, well, actually this building, 50% of the units are gonna be affordable. So they have tiers in their programs. I don't know if you guys are familiar. So we're going up to 40. It actually ends up working out to 50 just because of the way the unit count works. So 50% of the units will be offered under CMHC's guidelines as affordable housing. Then the second part of the application with them is to upgrade the building efficiency. So currently we had 2x6, 2x4 wall assemblies. Part of that energy efficiency modeling is to go to heat pump, really efficient. I'm not good with the science behind amperage but you're cutting down carbon emissions to nil, and you are, we're using electric heat pumps, water saving toilets, light saving, power saving light fixtures. And then we're upgrading the building envelope as well to also cut down on the hydro cost related to those new systems by buffing out the walls to the new building code requirements of 2x6 wall assemblies, upgrading the insulation in the attic as well.
Okay, so, and under these programs, there's terms and conditions that in order for you to receive the funding, they have to remain affordable. So there's some kind of agreement that will be in
Yes,
place.
it's a contract, yeah. And I haven't got as far, but the city also offers affordable housing initiatives at the permit stage. So that was another thing. It actually just got brought to my attention, so I'm gonna look further into that as well.
And it's
Yeah,
not that I'm expecting you to have that at this
Yeah.
stage, just curiosity of,
To see if-
sometimes people will say that they're doing affordable housing, but then there's no actual.
no, yeah, the
Addition.
CMHC is 100%, and it's on a contract basis. They follow your
I'm aware.
rents and deposits. Yeah, it's audited and whatnot, yeah.
Okay, so that answers that question. And then my next question is for planning. So I'm not a planner, so I was a little curious, and you can help me understand. When we're looking at minor variance A, and it's talking about, and I looked in, I think there's no page numbers in the application, but the page number that has that table that goes through all of the different variance requests. So in an R4 UA zoning, it would be 1.98 meters if it was a dwelling versus 0.93 meters at a garage. But since this garage will now be converted to dwelling space, I'm just trying to understand if it's a dwelling space, is it still now dwelling, and is there a different requirement? I just kind of curious of that, and it's a pretty technical question, so I just help me understand that. That would be super great.
Thank you, Ms. Lecuyer. I'm just going to take a minute to open up my notes. This essentially, from my understanding, the interior side is the same. The interior side yard setback would be the same.
Yeah, so it's I think it's 0.9 meters at garage versus the zoning bylaw is 1.5. So this doesn't change anything? I just want that reassurance.
So I guess just to consider this too, though. So at the end of the day, we're not doing anything with that, whether it's a garage or it's a unit. There's nothing actually happening to that. So the request is to actually regularize an existing condition, which Ms. Horn can correct me, but it seems to me that it wouldn't really matter at that point whether it's a garage or an apartment. I don't know, help me out here.
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Yes, that is correct. It would not change anything. And the applicant is seeking to regularize it essentially.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I thought, oh, if it's 1.98 meters at the dwelling and now it's a dwelling, do we even need this variance at all? Like that was just more of my question, but
If I may,
oh, please, yes.
I can clarify a bit. The current condition is that there are two distances or setback. At the garage specifically, it's the 0.93, but if you go beyond the garage, you now have another point, which is the rear single story. That's 1.98. So that's a bigger setback than the one that we have that's constraining. So we're looking at is the point that's constraining and to regularize that 0.93.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Member Blatherwick?
I have a question for Ms. Horn. I'm looking at the application, Ms. Horn, and this is an application to convert this this dwelling into an 8-unit apartment building. Exactly what does the City of Ottawa consider to be an apartment unit? What constitutes an apartment unit as far as the city is concerned?
Thank you, Mr. Blatherwick. So a low-rise apartment is generally anything with 4 or more dwelling units. It's not vertically severed, essentially.
Okay, and in these dwelling units, how are those dwelling units configured in this apartment building? As far as the city is concerned, how are they configured? Do they have kitchens? Do they have separate bathrooms? Are they self-contained units?
Mr. Blatherwick, just to clarify, is your question about like what constitutes a dwelling unit?
Well, you're talking about apartments. So in a typical apartment, as far as the city is concerned, what's in the apartment? Does the apartment have a bedroom? Does it have a living room? Does it have a bathroom? Does it have a kitchen? You're describing this as an apartment building. My idea of an apartment may be very different from what the department considers to be an apartment. And I'd like to have some confirmation as to what you guys consider to be an apartment.
Thank you, Mr. Blatherwick. So under the Planning Act, a dwelling unit means any property that is used or designed for use as a domestic establishment in which one or more persons may sleep and prepare and serve meals. So essentially, it is an 8 dwelling unit apartment building.
No. This could be a rooming house with 8 units, and the city would consider this an apartment dwelling.
There is a separate definition of rooming houses, and it does not qualify.
How does it not qualify?
One second, I can pull up the definition for you.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, maybe even the building code addresses this to a certain extent, because I don't know, my understanding of a rooming house is that there tends to be common spaces
Yeah.
with a bedroom with bedrooms as opposed to each unit
Yeah.
having a contained, but I might be wrong about that. It'd be an antiquated idea of what a rooming house is. Ms. Horn?
Thank you. So a rooming house under the zoning bylaw is defined as a residential unit other than a group home, retirement home, or converted retirement home that is not used or intended for use as a residential premises by a household or is used or intended for use as a residential premises by a household and more than 3 rooms or borders, contains more than 8 bedrooms. And so that's the definition of the zoning bylaw.
Okay.
And I would like to note that planning staff, while we do look at the floor plans when they're provided, these aspects are looked at very closely by our building permit team at that phase.
Okay. All right, so I have a question for Mr. Edwards. The units that are in your proposed design are simply rooms with common areas for kitchen and living? Or are they actual apartments with a kitchen, a bathroom, bedroom space? What?
No, the units are set up with kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms to function as a complete unit as an apartment does. So whether it's 4 bedrooms, 3, 2, or bachelor, you'll always see that they're kitchens, bathrooms, and there are no common spaces to anything else. They're all fire separated units individually with points of entry and egress on their own.
So given the size of the building, some of these dwelling units are going to be pretty small.
Yeah, exactly. They're small because the requirement, as we have them by code, that's why we had a mix. The number of bachelors that we have, only a couple of these units are 4 bedroom, the 3 bedroom, but then we have a number of bachelors. There's a 2 bedroom. So the space that's allocated is to set it up based on what the building code requires as a minimum for each of the different units.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from anyone? All right, we're going to go to the public portion. Is there anyone in the audience or online who would like to speak to this application? Come down, please. Good afternoon. So I'm going to ask you to turn on your mic and then to both introduce yourselves and give me your municipal address, please.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Nat Polito. I live at 35 Goulburn, which is exactly next door. We also own 27 through a holding company, which is the property next door to 35. So we own the 2 properties directly to the north of 39. So
my name is Louise Boulanger. My address is 35. You'll have to excuse my voice. Still not getting over something, I think.
Who would like to speak first?
I would.
And just as a reminder, we have a 5-minute limit per speaker.
Okay, I didn't know that and didn't time myself. I did send a document submitted yesterday. Hopefully you'll have received it. The property is located in the Sandy Hill Cultural Heritage Character Area, and the proposal would move the building's primary entrance to the north side, establish an inadequate entrance pathway, destroy the historical landscape, and disrespect and detract from the neighborhood character. 39 Goulburn is a bunkhouse. I've put in some references describing the term bunkhouse that has been used with the city of Ottawa, attached as Annex A to the document. These units are not being created as permanent housing, not for longer term residents in Sandy Hill, not for residents who would contribute to the fabric and character of the neighborhood. According to the plans, the single family home is to be turned into a building with 17 bedrooms, commonly referred to as a bunkhouse. Appendix A provides background and the explanation for the definition and the problems. Apart from the basic kitchen cabinetry, there's no storage in the units. Although the units are furnished, potential tenants are advised that they need to bring their own dresser. Although the advertising states it's aimed at serious students and young professionals, there's no mention of desks. The individual rooms within each apartment are barely larger than the minimum sizes dictated by the building code. In addition, the apartments have limited of any kind of closet space and no dedicated storage space. The building is not being designed for long-term livability, but for transient population to which bunkhouses generally caters. Such 4-bedroom and 3-bedroom units are usually a rooming house in disguise. To accomplish this maximizing number of bedrooms, the plan moves the principal entrance to the north side of the building. To create this bunkhouse, we object to the variance of 1.5 meters at the front part of the structure currently used as a garage. Besides being inadequate as a setback, formalizing this inadequate distance could set a precedent to have it considered as legally adequate to be used as part of the walkway to the new proposed primary access to 39 Goulburn. The house has side access on the north side, which they've addressed earlier, which were really access to the side and backyard. We've been there a few years. The property, those side entrances were never used as main access points to the building. And the house was empty for over a year. The house has side access on the north side. According to the plans, only 3 of the 8 units would have an entrance at the front, the street side of the building. And these 3 also have a second entrance that they call egress on the north side of the building. So all 8 units would have entrances on the north side. By creating the bicycle storage area in that area, they're further setting the area to be used by every bedroom to store their bicycles, and therefore the area along the garage to be used by every tenant and visitor as a main walkway to get to what would now become the main or primary entrance. The Ontario Building Code lists exterior walks as needing not less than 1,100 millimeter, being no less than 1,100 millimeters wide. I couldn't find one for the City of Ottawa, but Toronto has guidelines specifying that a minimum path from street to storage area of 1.8 meters for bicycle passageways. I've added 2 pictures in the document of the following, just to identify that the cement curb that's currently delineating the what you would call, I guess, the driveway area is actually already on 35 property. I don't know if they'll be removing that because they're talking about landscaping, but they are already encroaching on the property. Given that the official plan and the Sandy Hill Cultural Heritage Character Area guidelines require projects to respect and contribute to the neighborhood character, we contend that this construction would do the opposite. It would change the character of the building, destroy current historic vegetation, which would then further expose the new unsympathetic construction to the heritage character area. First, we consider the destruction of the current historic vegetation. From the City of Ottawa Planning and Growth Management publication, Sandy Hill area, the goal of the heritage character is to celebrate the rich history of Sandy Hill, encourage the retention of historic fabric, and to guide new development that is appropriate to the character of the neighborhood. This includes
We're not giving you 1 more minute.
This includes landscape and setting. We contend that I have a report here from a consultant, Brian Smith, who is a graduate forester, member of Ontario Parks Association, former board member of the ISA, and former arborist with the City of Ottawa for 32 years. His evaluation, which I've taken in, specifically states that, in his opinion, This hedge will not survive the renovations and increased pedestrian and bicycle traffic suggested in the scheme design of 39 Goulburn variants. I've included pictures of the hedges, which are very tall. And he also adds that these mature cedars are not replaceable as they are not available for purchase in nurseries. Secondly, by killing the cedars, they would then be exposing that north side of the building as visible from the street. The city's guidelines talk about the character of the neighborhood. And what you would have now is that north side picture with all the stairways going up and down being the main principal entrance. It would also be visible from the street. I've included two pictures. They're just Google Map pictures, not anything like I triggered or to show you that in this area, the properties of side views do become part of the view from the street. So I've included 30 Goulburn Avenue and 27 Goulburn Avenue.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so over to you then, Mr. Polito.
Polito, yes.
Polito, thank you.
I'm curious as to why we only get 5 minutes and they can speak as long as they want to, but that's just a particular little comment. There seems to me to be a contradiction between two aspects. One is affordable housing and one is the heritage. From our perspective, we're maintaining the heritage of the particular thing, both at 35 and 27. We've invested significant money in both the properties to ensure that nothing is being done that would diminish the heritage aspect of it. Just at 27 this year, we spent $40,000 dealing with the stonework and the woodwork and painting and stuff of that nature. 27 is also the home of a man by the name, or was, from 1913 to 1940, a man by the name of Nulon-Couchon, who was basically the father of city planning. I'm sorry, I'm so upset by this. We see there's a lot of things. It was a bed and breakfast, but a bed and breakfast requires that the owner lives there, or at least the person running it lives there. There'll be no such thing. There'll be no control over the people who live there. We have experience. We've lived in Sandy Hill for over 40 years. Before moving to 35, we lived on Blackburn for 38 years. We've now lived there since 2018. We love the area, and like I say, we've seen what these type of bunkhouses have done to other neighborhoods. We've seen the disarray of things because nobody controls it. Nobody lives in those things. 4 bedrooms. All they do with 4 bedrooms is they deal with it as a rooming house. They don't rent it to a family in an affordable sense. What they rent it is to 4 or 5 or multiple people. And I don't know whether they even have one person as the leaseholder or they just, it's just another way of saying it's a rooming house. The fact that they're furnishing it also indicates that it's not meant for long-term viability in any particular way. I think we purchased 27 specifically to not have the space in between, which is a beautiful English garden, not turn into multiple units. Even though there are some on the block, the ones that are there, like on the other side of 27, we have apartments, but the owners live there. They take care of it. They ensure that the tenants behave in a particular aspect. There's no such assurance. What will happen there is it will impact greatly on our enjoyment of our property, our enjoyment of our lifestyle. I think just the fact that it's 8 units speaks to that particular point.
17 beds.
You know, we've gone, when the previous owners were there, they did live in the space. And they did run a bed and breakfast, but you know, bed and breakfasts, and we have experience in that end of it, you know, 50% of the time, they're not occupied. It's a whole different model. To somehow equate that somehow what they're doing, it continues the use of previously what was happening there was a bed and breakfast. I think that's a stretch. So we've invested huge amounts of money, not with the idea of trying to get revenue from it. We've done it in order to maintain the historical aspect and what Sandy Hill was. These bunkhouses have changed the whole idea of Sandy Hill. They've also contributed to density that it can't control. You know, we know about the parties and we know about, and the other aspect that we're seeing right now in the area is places aren't renting. There's no need for any more of these things. They're staying empty for huge periods of time because that growth has essentially stopped. Yeah. There isn't the city of Ottawa, the university has increased how much they're offering to students to the extent that they don't need these places for student housing or much anything else.
All right, thank you very much for that. I am going to ask for some clarification on some of the points that you've raised from staff. So do we have Ms. Young with us? And Ms. Horn, so if you can come back, there's a couple of questions I'd like to ask. All right, we're not seeing Ms. Horn come in and I'm not, oh, there's Ms. Horn. How about Ms. Young? Or do we have Mr. Alvarez?
Yeah, I provided comments on this one.
Yes, okay, so let's start with the vegetation issue. So I did look at your comments, and this was something that we didn't explore yet with the agent. It says that there is one protected tree in the right-of-way that's to be protected through the proposed renovations, but then the other comment is that this tree's location is not accurate in the provided report and plans and should be updated. So have you received those updated plans?
I have not, but if it alleviates your concern, the tree is in the right of way, so it's separated from the property by the sidewalk. So it's further away from the building.
All right, okay, thanks for that. The other comment had to do with the hedges. I believe our speakers have actually gotten somebody qualified to provide their professional opinion that the hedges, for example, could not survive construction. Is that something you looked at as part of your review? And can you provide us maybe, and I hate to put you on the hot seat, but with an opinion about that?
I haven't had a chance to review the document that speakers were alluding to. As far as I can tell from the plans provided, there aren't significant changes proposed within the critical root zone of those hedges, of that hedge, sorry. Those cedars are also, although part of the heritage district, they aren't necessarily protected by the tree protection bylaw. So they wouldn't necessarily be captured under a tree information report. We don't have a lot of authority to regulate their removal or impact. That said, the plans that I've seen don't show significant impact to those trees, as they're not showing changes to the grading or excavation within the critical root zone of that hedge.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on then to you, Ms. Horn, having to do with the heritage aspect that was raised by Mr. Polito. From your report, my understanding is that there is no heritage concerns about the proposed variances or the proposal. Can you just give us a little more information about that, please?
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Essentially, heritage is circulated on all of the applications that go to the Committee of Adjustment, and in conversations with them, as well as in their comments, they indicated that they've been in discussions with the applicant, and from their understanding, this will meet the threshold to allow for a delegated heritage permit approval, so through the staff process, and likely won't require a heritage permit done through council.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, and that give me a chance to get through some of these issues. To our agent, you heard some concerns about, the manner in which the units will be rented. So I think if I understood our speakers correctly, there's a concern then rather than renting to a household for a three-bedroom unit, for example, that each bedroom would then come with some sort of rent agreement that would then identify, I guess, the kitchen and the bedroom, the living room area as a common area to be shared by all tenants. I think that's what I heard the concern was. Can you tell me how you plan to rent these units? Can you give us, I need you to provide us with some clarity on that.
Well, I think first I'd like to go back just a couple of steps. With regards to the issue of the trees, the impact of the trees, we went through and we did do a TIR and we assessed what was required based on the root zone. There's no construction on the exterior of any of that portion of the building. That's all interior. The addition is at the rear, and in the rear, you're essentially 7 meters away from the trees at the rear and ample space on the side, approximately 2 meters or more. So that's kind of the placement of where the issue is. I do have a curiosity with regards to some of the things that were mentioned in the comments here. We met with Action Sandy Hill. We had a number of discussions with them, and at that time, they weren't raising any of those things, and I'm not sure if these residents had identified that to the group, but we have been in contact with the group to say, if there's anything, let us know, and we're happy to have a conversation about any adjustments that they mentioned. With regards to heritage, we filed a heritage application in parallel with this process so that we made sure that we're covering the bases with what they had. Similarly, we met with planning 2 or 3 times. So some of the things that are mentioned here, we just got a copy of that correspondence this morning. So based on what's in it, I'm curious to find out how it's been assumed that, one, there will be nobody living there in terms of ownership, because the setup is currently that on the main level, we have a 4-bedroom apartment, and the owners will be living in that apartment. They have other apartments that are there. The intent is not to have any kind of a rooming house. The intent is to have apartments. Yes, they're tight, but based on the constraints of what we have, they are tight. So we're being tight with the size of these spaces relative to what the minimum building code allows. So we will be going through a building code review process. We're filing the information that we adjust from here. We've already put into the portal, into the city application for the building code. The documents that we currently have are ones that are final that shows this. We started the process of initiating this variance request 2.5 months ago. So the information that you have is just schematic layouts of what would be there. We'd be happy to give you a full set of documents that shows exactly how these spaces are laid out, bedrooms with closets, with storage, and that's where we've advanced the documentation to. So at the present time, I'm not familiar with the difference between rooming house and bunkhouse, but I am familiar with the fact that as an apartment, we meet the requirements as Ms. Horn mentioned, for an apartment.
So let me jump in here. So the committee, provided we have, and we did get confirmation from planning staff that in their opinion, this meets the definition for apartments and not rooming houses. That
Right.
was clear through the line of questions with member Blatherwick. The committee is not, that the jurisdiction for, I mean, I asked the question because it was raised by but the committee has absolutely no jurisdiction when it comes to how you rent out these units. That's a bylaw issue after the fact. It's not a committee of adjustment. We have to go with the evidence that's before us. That's why I wanted to get that from you though, and on the record, about how you intend to rent it out, but it's not a committee decision, or it's not a purview for us. It's more a matter of getting it on the record so that there is some record of it. So, okay. We're gonna come back to Mr. Edwards for rebuttal at the very end for any additional pieces. Go ahead, especially if you're talking
Yeah,
about how you're gonna be renting.
Yes, if you want to put it on record, all the units will be one individual lease. And the city can follow up with me after the project's over if it gets granted. I'll be in full compliance. There'll be no rooming houses, individual leases inside of the bigger units, one lease per unit.
Okay, that's perfect, because, you know, the one thing about the Committee of Adjustment is it's very grassroots planning. This affects people next door. What you do affects people next door. So even though sometimes there are things completely out of our purview, we always encourage communication, discussion, and going back and forth as much as you can in order to alleviate some of the concerns that the residents may have. It's not our purview, but it just makes for good planning and good development. So, all right, with that, I'm going to go to see whether or not anyone else in the audience would like to speak to this application. Anybody here or online? Coordinator, do we have anybody? Nobody else is coming forward? Okay.
Madam Chair, no one's online.
I beg your pardon? No one's online, okay. So, does anybody on the committee have any questions for our speakers? No? All right, then the public portion is closed at this point, so we are going to give you, Mr. Edwards, a chance to rebut again if you'd like on any of the points and to recap the purpose of your application.
I think just in general, the focus is on that north side, and the only comment I can make with regards to that is that the entrances to the property, there's 3 proposed to come from the street, as I mentioned previously. The reason why we have the stairs in the secondary means, which is part of building code, we will have to provide that in that area on the north, is because there's a courtyard area and it allows the space to be able to come out and organize how people exit the building. It's not because we're looking to load one side or the other. The other thing to point is that the property has 2 points of entry from the street on either side yard that goes back to the rear. So there's no obstruction. You can go right around. On the other side, which would be the south side, there is no requirement to try and get relief because we already meet the requirement there of the 1.5. There's more than 1.5 on the right side. So there's access, circulation is allowed to come left, right. With regards to the bike storage, it's not that you want to have them come on that side, it's where we can have the space to put them. So you can equally walk in from the right side or the left side with a bike to put into the storage location. So it's just the logistics of the space that we have. It's not to say we're looking to load access to the properties from one side.
Okay, and I'm glad to raise that because the comments from the right-of-way management did say that the existing private approach and driveway will need to be removed and reinstated to soft landscaping, given that you're giving up that garage space. Okay, If that's the end, I'm looking to committee members. What would you like to do? Would you like to reserve on this one? No? All right. If
Can I
that's,
ask a question, please?
I'll allow 1 minute.
I just want to get clear for the record. Was it stated that it would be, one of the units would be owner occupied?
Mr. Edwards, can you confirm?
Because I thought I heard that the 4-bedroom unit was going to be
Yes.
occupied by the owner.
Yes, but it's not a requirement to identify who's going to be in the units. It's just an identifying how many units, and so the discussion regarding the specifics of each unit, it's not part of that submission, but we can happily identify whatever the owner is prepared to disclose regarding who's in the unit, as long as the unit meets the requirement that the code and the bylaw requires, is where I took it.
That's correct. So you may have heard that, but you can't hold them to any of that, right? We don't know. And in fact, even though Mr. Edwards is offering perhaps to disclose, whatever, to the extent that the owner might be comfortable, the reality is there's privacy issues surrounding all of those things, right? So, nobody can look up on the rolls to see who's owning your house. So with that, then I think take it on good faith right now, but there's no guarantees, and there's nothing this committee can do for you on that regard anyway. And I don't think there's any basis anywhere to hold anybody to something like that. So, all right. With that, then we are going to go to a vote at this point. All those in favor of the application? All right, so for the record, the application is granted and it is unanimous for the decision. So again, I would encourage you to speak with your neighbors. I think it's a great project from what I can see. It is, based on your description of it, I think it should be an asset to the area, but then again, that's where the communication piece is really important. Thank you very much for coming today. Again, the weather wasn't great, so I can understand how much fun it was for you to drive here. Thank you for taking the time. And with that, good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
With that, we're going to go to our last application, which is for.
Excuse me, do we have a right to appeal?
Yes, you do. Oh,
Okay.
actually, no. You know what? Thank you for correction. Not any longer. It used to be that you would, but that's now been taken out of the Planning Act. So I've seen people try to apply for party status, but you may need to speak with a lawyer about whether or not there'd be an opportunity there for you.
That's outside the city of Ottawa, just so it's clear. This is now that's the province of Ontario's decision.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, last application, as I said, will be for 525 Chapel. Looking for Silbert, Agent Silbert, online or with us today?
Online.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you guys again.
Excellent. So we're not needing a presentation. We're just going to go straight to questions. So
Sure.
I'm opening the floor to our members.
I have Scott Allan as my planner. If you have a question, it might be promote him too. I'm not sure if he's been promoted. Just the answer.
How about just for the record, you tell us what the purpose of the lot line adjustment is?
So I don't know if you remember me. I sat in front of you a couple of years ago for a minor lot line for a couple of variances for a single family home at 527 Chapel, which is the adjacent property to the right. It's my wife and I were sitting here. So we're planning to build our forever home there. The garage is a semi-detached garage. So when we move, we live at 525 Chapel Street in unit 1 of 2. When we move next door to 527 Chapel Street, we'd like to have a double car garage rather than have a semi-detached one. Single family home, double car garage makes a little bit more sense than a half a garage for rental units on the other side. So the functionality of it for our family, and then we don't know if we'll continue to own 525 in the future, but it certainly less encumbers the site, provides the operational use, which would the single family home, 2-car garage, raising a family, is, it makes more sense to have it there. It's kind of always been used that way because we own both properties. Kind of legalizing what the current use is, although it's not illegal, just we have it's a semi-detached. So for us to do that, it also will allow us a little bit of UPO, so we can add some additional windows down that driveway side on the 5 to 7 Chapel Street. We've cleared the building code conditions, just confirming that there is no UPO issue with the setback we proposed. So we've already cleared that. So that condition that was previously stated as like a requirement to satisfy prior to finalization has been removed. Building code has removed that requirement. So, we know those windows will always stay the same. That rental unit's been renovated extensively in recent past, and so it will continue to operate as a rental unit for the front and back and front where we live. And so when we move next door, we'll have sort of a little bit more options in terms of windows and all kinds of stuff. So it's sort of the final part. If I'd known this 2 years ago and thought of it, I probably would have made it part of our committee adjustment that we came for 2 years ago when we sat in front of you previously.
All right,
Mark,
thanks.
it's not what we needed to get the job done previously. So we're still trying to get around with the low interest rates to get the project underway.
All right, thanks for the explanation. I see Member Lucky has got a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. What you mentioned actually triggered a question for me, only because I'm not a planner, and one of the most interesting things I've learned about this is when parcels of land are under the same title, that they accidentally like merge when there's next door. And I didn't know that. And now you just mentioned that you own both, but there's a consent application before us, and I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, because I didn't know this. And we've had people come before us not realize this happened, and I was just trying to avoid a potential thing. So
yes, so that is the essence of how the rules work. That it is because they are two parts of a lot. If they are whole lots, they do not merge on title, and they only do within. My wife is not named on 525 Chapel. I and my wife are named on 527 specifically for that reason. There's a whole matrimonial home thing that I could never sell without her, but that's done for that specific reason. Yeah, so we don't have an issue there. Made quite the confusion for the application process, though.
all right, thank you.
But anyway, yes.
Okay, I've got a question for you too. We've got, maybe this one is one for staff. There's a condition here to identify own independent storm, sanitary, and water services. So, Ms. Horn, can you tell me why we have that condition?
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Essentially, it's a standard condition that we put in place, and it's to ensure that each parcel is being serviced separately, even though there's no construction, because the lot line is essentially moving. We just want to make sure that the change to the lot line location doesn't inadvertently lead to both sets of services on the same lot. And so that can be cleared with a private servicing locate. It's not necessary.
That's fine. All right.
Yeah.
Just wasn't sure about that, because normally with the lot line adjustments, particularly in the back of the property, it's not an issue. But I this is an older area, so it's quite possible things were done a little differently 100 years ago. Okay. So with that, any other questions from the members? No. All right. So nobody on my speakers list, I don't believe, for this one. Here's my speakers list. No. So is there anyone, there's no one left in the audience. So is there anyone online who would like to speak to this application?
Madam Chair, there is Nicole online. If she would like to be promoted, she can raise her hand.
All right. Thank you.
She's joining the meeting now.
Perfect.
All right, here I am Well, the
Hello.
thing is,
So sorry, can I get your full name and your municipal address before you begin?
Nicole Girard, Girard, 529 Chapel.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, you've got 5 minutes.
Well, it's very simple. As we were looking at it together with the east side neighbor on Blackburn, we were concerned, perplexed to see that there were no reference to the previous Committee of Adjustment decisions of 2022 into the application, this recent application. But so we were kind of baffled. We were wondering whether it's still on. Because, well, one of the reasons we were asking is we didn't see any in the application reference is had to the no construction envisaged at this time on either half of the lot. So we were wondering where we are at with respect to the previous Committee of Adjustment decision. Wanted to ensure that it's still alive and will govern the use of that application, yes.
All right, so Mr. Alain, I see that you've popped up. So I'm going to ask you to give us just a quick overview of the relationship between the two applications.
Sure, certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I may lean on Jeremy for some of the background in terms of what's moving forward. But I will say, as of course, the author of the cover letter that you've reviewed as part of this submission. So we didn't have a role, we being me, in the previous minor variances. As Jeremy had said, that was something that he had separately been before the committee for. In terms of assessing the lot line adjustment, Nicole is correct in confirming that no construction is proposed as part of the consent application. And in what I mean by that is we didn't assess for compliance, we assessed for a lot line adjustment. So the zoning metrics include lot area, which, as you know, we're seeking a variance for, and otherwise, with the appropriateness of the new lot configuration, that being the line between the two and the easement. So that's the way that we were directed to frame it in terms of the application before you. As far as what's happening on the site in the future, I'll defer to Jeremy on that. Thank you.
Go ahead, please, Mr. Silbert.
No, we're still planning to go ahead with the house, just taking care of the lot line at this time. So to do the lot line adjustment doesn't require anything. The variance doesn't reference 527 variances for 525 capital because its lot becomes insufficient for minimum lot size. So
yeah, and
it's
if
really
I
a
may,
525 chapel application. It's really not a 527, though the portion being severed off is merged with 527. So the project's still going forward as can be.
Yeah, and if I may, just and if it helps give any kind of further comfort, because no additional relief is being explored for that, it would still have to be built per the approvals previously given. So there would be no opportunity here to further push the envelope, let's say, through this application. Again, it is truly just a property management exercise in some ways, as Jeremy's described it here. So I hope that's helpful, but happy to answer any other questions. Thank you.
It is very much.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Girard.
Sorry.
Does that answer your question?
It does. And could I get one more confirmation, just helping me with respect to the on the plans you have? Is there this my protected tree, the critical root zone for the protected tree on my adjacent property? Is it mentioned in the plans?
I'm going to answer that question then, because I'm looking at forestry's comments. Forestry's comments say that there's no protected trees that would be impacted by the proposed consent. So on the tree that Ms. Girard is mentioning, what can you tell me about that?
I can tell you that the trees aren't hurt by moving a line on a map. We're not proposing any construction. So in this particular case, that just, we're simply moving the lot line over on a map.
And perhaps maybe forestry staff can confirm this, but I will say that the site and any future construction applications aside would be subject to the tree protection bylaw. And so that would be the mechanism through which a protected tree would be managed as well.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the application? Do we have anybody online? Okay. So, and does either one of my colleagues have questions for Madame Gérard? All right. With that, then, you have 2 minutes to recap. I don't know, Mr. Silbert, if you want to do that at this point.
I'm not sure anything I bring to, I didn't put a presentation in front, so I thought it was mostly just questions. We're moving a lot line to accommodate the, I mean, I don't really have anything that I'm still taking care of.
Well, typically you need to talk about the 4 tests.
I know, and I have my, if you want me to bring up the presentation, I can do that, but I don't have it in front of me because I didn't present the original presentation.
All right, so Mr. Alain, would it be possible for you then just to give us a quick overview of the 4 tests with regards to the minor variance?
Certainly. Yeah, so in terms of the 4 tests, we'll start with the official plan. So within the official plan, we're in the neighborhood designation and we're in an evolving overlay, which basically means development has to maintain a 4-story or lower level. And the evolving overlay basically states, there's an expectation that, given that this site is within less than 1 kilometer of 2 LRT stations, there's an expectation there will be some change within that 4-story envelope. So in terms of what's being proposed, we're looking at a lot line adjustment, but both the existing and future development on the sites would comply. In terms of the intent of the bylaw, the intent of the lot frontage or the intent of the lot area requirement is to ensure that lots can accommodate a transition to adjacent properties and to ensure that they have adequate area for construction. Again, these buildings they're as of right relative to the requirements and otherwise comply to the zoning. The lot frontage, which is the public realm interface, of course, is being maintained. So both lots will continue to have a frontage. In this scenario, a pedestrian walking by wouldn't be able to determine, the nature of the lot line between the 2 sites, either today or in a year from now or anything like that. So from a public realm perspective, the zoning intent is maintained. The rear yard setbacks are maintained in light of this change. No parking is required for this site, given the zoning provisions relating to parking and the underlying zoning. So again, that's within consideration to the scale of development, proximity of transit, all that continues to comply. Is it desirable? Certainly, one thing we pointed out is it reduces potential liability for the residents. Having a lot line cross through a freestanding structure is not desirable or functional or safe or raises a bunch of questions. So this normalizes it. There are easements being proposed to address circulation is still reasonable between both owners. And again, there's no visible complications arising from that. And is it minor in nature? So firstly, the requirement for lot area is 225. It's going down to 200, which is still a sizable lot as far as Sandy Hill is concerned, and it will still accommodate the setbacks for the existing building. We're accommodating the setbacks from the garage as it continues to stand as an accessory building. Again, when you look at the surrounding character, which I'm sure is in Jeremy's presentation, you see that this lot fabric is consistent with some of the other varieties you see in this neighborhood. It's characterized by an array of different lot configurations. Sandy Hill has been around for a very long time, and many things have changed over that time period. So I hope that wasn't too lengthy, but happy to answer any further questions on that. Thanks.
Nope, that's fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Arnay. So with that, then, colleagues, ready for a vote? All right, then all those in favor? All right, so the application is granted. It's unanimous for the record, and good luck. Maybe we'll see you again,
Thank you.
Mr. Silver.
I hope I'm not on this file.
All right,
thanks,
well,
Madam
with
Chair.
that, then I'm going to wish you Merry Christmas, and we can adjourn if there's no other business. We're adjourned. Thank you.